Okay. So welcome everybody to another hands-on session. Ooh, big typo there in this. We're going to be going over today the ETL process in Automation Studio. We've got a guest community member, Robert Winter, who's bringing us this use case that we wanted to walk through in a little bit more detail. And we've got Robert getting access to our Marketing Cloud environment as we speak. And then what we'll do is once he's ready, we will have him share the use case, and we will build in the Marketing Cloud environment along those lines. So just giving a little bit of an overview of the ETL process typically used in Automation Studio when you're updating all subscribers. It's typically a three-part process: the E, the extract, the transfer, or transform, the file transfer, and then the load or the import. You can see here. So there's a data extract activity in Automation Studio. There's a file transfer, and then there's the import to update all subscribers. And then there is you'd be interacting with the FTP in Marketing Cloud. That's where you can use like a FileZilla example to just to sort of validate that is working. And that's what we're going to be having Robert build today is this process. But before you build out these activities, you need to build a query to populate the data extension so that you can extract it, transfer it, and then update in all subscribers. So the most important part started out as a query to determine those subscribers who need to be either updated from all subscribers, or they can also be updated in Salesforce CRM, depending on your use case. So that's what we're going to look to build today, if that aligns with what Robert is looking for on his end. And Robert, do you? I know that you've shared in LinkedIn some of your use case, and I know you're setting up your account in Marketing Cloud, but just wanted to see if that aligned with what you were looking to do on your end as far as finding a way to update all subscribers in bulk on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Cool. And wanted to check in on how you were doing. I know you're probably still setting up your account.
Well, I put in the password or the two-word phrase, and it's not loading. So I'm just waiting for it to load.
Oh. Okay.
But it's taking a long time, so there's something going on. Oh, yeah, internal server error. I don't know what that means. Let me just try it again.
Okay. And if it's helpful, if you want to share your screen, we have walked through a couple of people setting up their Marketing Cloud access before. So happy to help crowdsource.
I refreshed, and when I refreshed it, gave me to the password process. So
yay. Yay.
I'm just putting in the passwords.
You got it. And let me just show, while you're working on that, let me just share a couple more details, because we did cover this in a Automation Studio session. I'm not sure if it ever made it to YouTube, but I can share the FTP side. We won't go that into much detail today. Now we're going to start Robert building out a query that's going to identify those records that he's going to want to update the status in all subscribers. We're going to use a scenario where, let me go back up to our use case, is that, say Cervella Bank is looking to, streamline their consent capture information. They want to make sure that they're compliant across their systems, and they've got their Salesforce records. They're also using Marketing Cloud to send out those emails. but they don't have really an automated way to keep those two systems updated. So when, for instance, in the Salesforce CRM environment, for those who are familiar, if you check off that has not opted out field in Salesforce, that should automatically update in Marketing Cloud. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that there's an example of a field, a record that's being indicated on the Salesforce side that should be carried down to the Marketing Cloud environment, updated using all subscribers. If we have time, maybe in a future session, there's also scenarios where you're sending out emails in Marketing Cloud, that person unsubscribes in Marketing Cloud, but that's not reflected in the Salesforce environment. So you might, want to update that has opted out field or populate a specific field in Salesforce. So that's the use case we're working through, and that might align with Robert's as well. And then once we start going through each of these activities, we'll just be sort of following some instructions here on how to set up each of those: the data extract, the file transfer. All right, Robert, you're in. Fantastic, excellent, cool. So I know you mentioned that that use case does align to your scenario, and not to give away too much from your business. I think you're in the higher ed environment.
Yes.
Do you want to iterate, sort of give a little bit more framework on what is your scenario as far as,
sure.
What
Absolutely.
are you doing now? That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. So right now we're pushing in respective students, applicants, and our current students. And when we have a situation where we need to make sure that we're unsubscribing our contacts en masse, because sometimes we get that because we really send out a lot of emails out to all three of those different groups. It just makes it easier to do a mass update and make sure that the unsubscribe is working. Sometimes there's a connection. So I'm using Marketing Cloud and Sales Cloud, and sometimes that sync does work when you click the unsubscribe, and sometimes it does not. So I want to make sure that it's always happening, because when it doesn't and we send an email out, we get a complaint, and obviously we don't need those complaints happening in our system. So I want to be able to run a SQL query that always goes and grabs the leads and the connects that we have to the Salesforce sync and run an update to the all subscriber list. So it's going to run, check and see if there's any that are missing, and go, oh, okay, this person has unsubscribed from Marketing Cloud in the all subscribers.
Perfect, fantastic, wonderful. Yeah, and the good thing is that this environment is hooked up to a Sales Cloud environment where we should be able to find some records, fingers crossed, that will fit your exact situation, where someone has checked that unsubscribed field in Sales Cloud, but they're still subscribed in Marketing Cloud.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's going to be the first part of our process. If you're okay starting there, is identifying the data set. To your point, like how do we build that query that on a daily basis, identifies, okay, these are the ones that are out of sync, so that we can do that.
Okay. All right. Are we going to run and check, run a query to check who has or has not?
Yeah. So we're going to start in Query Studio. So if you go to the App Exchange icon over there on the right, yep, and click on Query Studio. Now, Robert, do you use Query Studio? Just curious.
Yes.
If you, yeah. Okay, fantastic, wonderful.
But unfortunately, it's not being supported by the people who made it anymore. So sometimes some things there, because sometimes they don't, because it's not being updated.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it's still a fantastic tool.
Oh yeah, I live off of it.
For sure.
Yeah. Although right now it's not working. Not sure
weird.
why.
I wonder what's going on there?
Could be because I'm it couldn't be because I'm incognito. That would be weird.
Oh, let me see if I am having the same problem.
Does deselect work?
No, I'm seeing
Oh, and deselect doesn't work for me either. So I probably don't have.
interesting.
Oh no, something's going on. Yeah, deselect works. Okay, so maybe it's just
maybe
slow.
just taking a second.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
me just go back to it and just be patient. My ADHD makes me impatient.
Interesting. I wonder if it has to do with Chrome too. Are you in?
Yeah, I'm in
if you're
Chrome.
Hmm. I wonder if it might be. Do you have Edge or another
Yeah,
browser?
I have them all just in case something doesn't work right.
You want to try logging in Edge too, just to see if
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm able to see it, but it's
you
weird.
are? Oh, okay.
Sometimes Chrome does do weird things. And
But
wonder if
isn't there a
it is
permissions thing as well?
incognito. No, well, I did grant you the, let me see. Oh, let's just double check that. So if you go to on the upper right hand corner, and if you go to let's go to setup. Yep. Yep. Let's double check that.
Unable to
That's
access.
interesting. Okay. Let me see. You're right. Maybe it has something to do with that.
In the meantime, while you're checking, because I would imagine we'll have to go through the same process if I go to another browser, right? Putting in the setup. Let me do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Give me 1 sec here. Let me.
I don't know why you're not able to click on that. Interesting. All right. Maybe just needs to be refreshed. But anyways, let me see. Query Studio. You're in partner name. Weird. Do you want to try it in a non-incognito?
Yep, I can certainly do that.
Maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know.
Yeah, it could very well be.
I don't have a problem usually with people logging into queries. It's weird. I did check. You have marketing admin and admin user. I'm not sure why you're unable to go into setup, which is weird as well.
1 sec. Of course, I'm incognito. No, non-incognito is trying to get me into mine. So I'm just trying to ignore all the pop-ups of mine. All right, let's see. Go into query. Oh, that's exactly what it is. Oh, you guys can't see can you see my screen?
We see your incognito.
Oh, the incognito. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me change that. And there we go.
Okay, wow. Interesting. Incognito did it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's, do you want to do leads or contacts? I think we might have both records that might work.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter which one we do, right? So
Yeah, I guess we'll try leads and see if this works. So, okay, so, yeah, fantastic. Yep. And if you want to duplicate this tab, we can actually go to that. We're going to probably need to pull up that synchronized data extension anyways.
okay, yeah.
So if you want to duplicate your browser tab,
Yep,
keep Query Studio. It's great.
exactly. It's trying to.
There you go. Perfect. And we'll go to the lead synchronized data extension. Yep.
The data, no,
Because
do we want to go to the data extension or do you want to go to the, no, you want to go to data extension? Yeah.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, to the synchronized data extensions. Yep.
And then leads. There it is.
Perfect. Yeah.
And you've got quite a few in there. So we should
yep.
be able to, here, okay, we go. So we do have some.
Yep. We've got some that are flagged there. Hopefully we can, we'll do some, so we should have some data here. Fantastic. Okay, so if we go back to the properties tab here, that'll just help us when we need to reference certain fields. So if you click on that right to the left of records, a little bit further down.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
So we're going to
all right, let's go.
The contract.
Yeah, let's go. Well, let's go back to your query. You were starting off in a great place because you had already known the leads. Fantastic. Yeah. So let's do that. That from statement, I think, is where you were starting with your lead. Yeah. And I think it's lead.
Is it lead or leads?
Yeah. It's just lead.
Just lead. Okay. And which fields are we pulling? Probably
well,
ID.
We'll right? get. Yeah. We'll just finish up connecting the from. Yeah. So let's change that on that same line. We're going to need to name this as an as-L.
Right.
If we do a space.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. And then we're going to need to join the all subscribers or the data view. So yeah, we're just going to do a join.
It's going to be a left join.
It'll just be a join because it's a good point. It's definitely to consider what's join to use there. Yep. And then let's open up another browser tab. We're going to go navigate to the data views. And we want to use just a Google browser tab. So if you create a
we're going to the data views. Got it. Yep.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I forgot what it's called. I have it. Well, I have it in memory, so it's coming to it anyways. Okay.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So if you just search for data views marketing cloud, we can, but not in this. I kind of like going to the Salesforce documentation. So up in your search browser, yeah, if you just search for data views marketing cloud.
Data views marketing cloud.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. Yeah. And
This one?
I think it's yeah. Matt's uses is fantastic. Yeah. We'll click on that. Fantastic. And then over on the right, he's got that subscribers.
Yes.
Thank you, Matt. Fantastic. So let's just copy that underscore subscribers at the top. That's what we'll use for our join statement.
It won't let me copy that. Oh, there. I'll just copy this.
So if you scroll to there you go. Perfect.
So let's go back here.
And that'll be what we're joining. Yeah. And then we'll use an as
as
do that as an
S.
S. Yeah, yep. And then we just need to figure out how we're going to join these two together. So we'll do a space and then an on.
Oh, almond, right.
Yeah. Fantastic. And then if we go back to the subscribers data view, I think we can probably use subscriber key here. Let's see, scroll up. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, there it is. We copy subscriber key. And then we can match that to maybe the lead ID. Yep. And you'll want to have that be an S dot subscriber key.
Oh, right.
Yep. And then equals, and let's
Equals
use the
and
L dot ID.
dot
Yeah.
ID. Oops, I made
Perfect.
this,
Fantastic.
capital, right?
All right.
Is it case sensitive? I wonder. I don't know if it is, just in case.
That's a good question. I don't know if it is, but it's good to be accurate. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so we've now got those two databases matched. And now to your point, let's start outputting some fields. Great ID there. So idea. So yeah, I think ID is fantastic as your first field. And we'll just need to make that as an LID.
Right. As an, all right, yes, LID.
Yeah. And then we're going to want to pull in that has opted out of email field.
Yeah. I also get what it
So
is.
it was a little further up. I think it was
Was
like
it up? Oh, there it is.
There it is. There it is. Fantastic. Yeah.
Comma.
Okay, cool. I think that might be enough from the Salesforce side.
Okay.
And although, it might be helpful to have email address, even though these are all test records and maybe it's not the best idea from if you're sharing, but these are all test records. Just because it'll be good just to see the subscriber, subscriber key and the email address, just to validate.
So
okay,
run
fantastic.
that.
And well, now we want to also add some fields from the subscriber.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think it'll be good to do the status, so we know the status. Yep, fantastic.
I think, Tim, one thing that I find really helpful to note when I'm pulling in email address is that at the all subscribers table, your opt-outs are controlled at that subscriber level. So if you've got two unique subscribers with the same email address, even though one of them may have opted out, that email address on the other subscriber is still opted in to receive communications. So you may have people sharing an email address where one is opted out, one is not. Emails are going, and the person receiving them is frustrated, saying, "Hey, I've opted out." So that's important to kind of keep in mind as you're thinking about your opt-out levels. Have I opted out the subscriber or that actual email address? And depending on your key setup, it may be one, it may be the other, depending on how you've got things configured.
So if you unsubscribe one person and the other person is using the same email, it won't unsubscribe that person? I thought if it does, it fixes on the, oh no, because it's doing it on the ID.
The
Right.
subscriber. Yeah. So
Right.
let's say you're using the email address as subscriber key, theoretically that would be a unique record. But if you're using two different, one's a contact ID, one's a lead ID, depending on who you're actually targeting with that send, one of them may be opted out, one may not.
Right. That's a good point.
To cover that, you can use suppression lists. There's lots of ways to kind of solve that. You may want that, you may not. I come from the financial services industry where people share email addresses all the time. So just because the person opted out doesn't mean the other shouldn't get them.
Yeah. Students do that too. Whole family just use one email sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that's really good. When Tim mentions to bring in the email, I love bringing an email address just because that helps you kind of find those edge cases when you're not sure why something's not working. It's working. It's just, a different subscriber ID or something else is going on. So just
got it.
And sorry for the interruption.
No, amazing, Matt. Thank you. And Robert, just to check, in your use case, you mentioned contact and lead, or maybe it was constituent. It sounds like for the most part, subscriber key is the Salesforce ID, but to Matt's point, there might be a scenario where you might have also the email address as a subscriber key.
Yes.
Okay. Fascinating. Fantastic. Okay. I think that might be enough. We might come back, add a little couple more on that. So where does the subscriber table come from? Are you considering subscribers? Sorry, and I have been ignoring the chat. So great questions, Michelle. Let's see. Where does the subscriber table coming from? Are you considering subscribers as customers? Fantastic. Well, I'm going to throw that out to Matt or Robert as far as the subscriber table. Anybody want to share perspective on the subscribers table in Marketing Cloud?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by where subscriber table comes from.
Yeah, so I'm happy to take a shot at it. So your all subscribers table is going to be that kind of master table within Marketing Cloud that contains your subscriber data.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
You can set a subscriber within Email Studio as a Salesforce lead ID. Maybe it's a Salesforce contact ID. Maybe you're running an event registration process where you have people filling out lead forms with an email address and you want their email address. That subscriber table is really what you are going to consider to be your unique individual that you're communicating with. And I think what the separate thing here is that the naming conventions are really similar across different objects. So that all subscribers table is going to be a system view within Marketing Cloud that it's going to be referenced at send time to see, is this person opted in or not? What email address is associated with this subscriber? Whereas the subscribers data view that we're joining right now in our query is a backend system table that stores information about subscribers. So if you go out to that help document that we placed in the chat, there's many different system data views. We've got subscriber information, which is all about your individual subscribers. There's opens, clicks, data views, all of those different things. We're joining them because what we're hoping to do is to make sure that our lead object within Salesforce and that subscriber information within Salesforce Marketing Cloud is aligned. And in order to do that, we're going to take some information from both of them so we understand what values are assigned to them. And then we're going to use this ETL process to synchronize them. And we'll modify one or the other depending on which way we want the information to flow. And I realized that was kind of long. So if you haven't,
yeah. So you see, there's
Awesome.
plenty of different tables here, and we don't know within each table what they've set the subscriber key as. So we may have to do multiple different queries in order to capture them, right? And so what we're pulling right now is from our Sales Cloud table, which is using an ID, which is the Salesforce ID. Right, and we want to make sure that when we go to the all subscriber list, that person is actually unsubscribed.
Hi, I'm just unmuted for a second here so I can try to explain what my question is better. So the subscriber could be a subscriber from, I guess you just showed me a whole bunch of campaigns.
Right.
All right. And then, so what you're really doing is you're matching on the email and hoping to find out if you can unify based on that email that that's the same customer or potential customer or lead.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So for example, I see this T Zitter is there 3 times. I guess because it's in 3 different campaigns, or maybe also 2 campaigns and maybe also a lead. So when you're joining it, you're joining based on the email is what you did? Because you said you were joining on subscriber ID.
We're joining on the subscriber ID, which is here.
Which is
So
the email?
this
No.
person is a lead, right? So we're joining it on this ID to the subscriber, subscriber key in Marketing Cloud. So we're connecting up and hoping that when we look at that in the all subscriber list, this is the key that we're going to find in Marketing Cloud for them.
And that key was created how? From a campaign?
This key here was created from Sales Cloud.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Well,
but
if
sometimes you
they're-
may have somebody who has a key that is they're using something else other than this key. Let's see if we can find one. Oh, there's none in here because
Oh,
it's
so the
because
key,
there's a lead.
the keys are telling you what system they're in?
A yes and a no. If it's coming from sales, like a lead table or a contact table that says lead underscore contact or sorry, lead underscore Salesforce or contact underscore, we know right away that that's coming from Salesforce. But there are other tables in here that we may not know where they're coming from. So these are manual tables in here that someone has created. And in these, let's just see if we can pull one in here.
Yeah, somebody might have had a form online and said, fill this in to get more information, and that would be the source, yeah?
And that would be the source. So I don't see, so it looks like it might be customer ID is the primary key. Yes, it is. So this one's using customer ID instead of ID or instead of subscriber key. So with this one, we would have to pull this to check in the all subscriber list, if I'm correct on that one.
Okay, I mean, it seems to me that it's not standardized as far as trying to unify these customers or leads into.
It is not.
I
You
see.
have to enforce standardize. So for example, in my world, if somebody wants to manually create a table, I will enforce them to use the Salesforce ID. But if that person is not in Salesforce, I instruct them to use what is called a student ID. Every student that we have, every applicant that we have has their own individual student ID. So at least it's only that, right? If they decide that they can't use the student ID and they want to use an email ID, then that becomes a problem for me. It becomes problematic because that person could end up being in there multiple times. So you're right. There isn't a standard. You try to make one for your business as best as you can.
Would it be fine or I think maybe advisable to make the standard the same as the one that you use to unify the records in Data Cloud?
100%. Yep. Whenever a person is going to do a manual one in my business, I have them I provide them a license for Sales Cloud as well, and I instruct them to run a report that I have that pulls up every single contact, and they have to do a VLOOKUP. And basically, a VLOOKUP is in Excel, and do a VLOOKUP to try and find that person so they can get the key.
Yeah. By the way, you
Right.
should use XLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is outdated.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to say XLOOKUP and say if someone goes, well, what is XLOOKUP? Most people know VLOOKUP. Yes, I do use VLOOKUP. I absolutely love it.
You mean XLOOKUP?
Yeah, sorry, XLOOKUP. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. All right, I got it. It was like hard for me to understand what exactly you were doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That
sorry.
makes sense
Great,
now, though?
great, Michelle.
Yeah,
Great,
now it makes sense.
Okay.
great questions, Michelle. Thank you for asking those.
Uh,
Okay, yeah.
dubious.
So no, it's awesome. Okay, so I think the only thing we want to do, we could add in our where clause that the has opted out of email is equal to true. So that'll at least shrink our set to those who've indicated that. And then if we can, we'll see if we run that, that'll hopefully we'll be able to scan through the data and see if we can find a couple of records just to see if we have the data set. Yeah, let's see if that runs, fingers crossed.
Do we want to do a comparison between the subscriber and the lead ID as well in terms of an equals?
We do.
So that it only
Yeah.
pulls those?
Yeah, I wanted to just see if we could run it, just to see if we could spot check to see.
Okay.
Yeah, we could like scan down and be like, all right, well, all of these trues, the status should be unsubscribed, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It also gives some visualization of the data too and all that. But okay, no errors, fingers crossed. Nice job, Robert, on the spot query building. It's nice to meet another fan of Query Studio. What do you like about Query Studio? Like, why do you like using it?
I want to be able to pull the data and see it first. So I'm a visual person. As I mentioned earlier, I have ADHD, so I'm a visual person. So I need to see it so I'm grasping what I'm trying to do. Right.
Yeah.
It is only, I mean, you could, write down your plan and chart your plan out, but unless you see the data, that's what pops out at me and goes, aha, yep, this is what I want to do.
Perfect. Yeah, same. And I also like, what I like about Query Studio is like doing this in phases too, right? Like, and this is sort of the process that I tend to follow. Like in this example, we're able to see the data, right? We know we've got one right here. We've got a record, right? So they should be has opted out, but we're seeing their status. They're all subscriber status of active. Yay. If that wasn't the case, we might go back to the data and manipulate, or we could switch to contacts. But we've got someone, right? So that's that exact use case, right? Someone has opted out on Salesforce CRM, still showing active in Marketing Cloud. But yeah, do you want to add? Fantastic. Yeah. Do you want to modify
I wanted to put this beside
where
it
clause
as well, just so that when someone runs it, when we
Oh,
run it,
cool. Yeah. And do you
right?
want
Because
to
it was
add
all the way up
your
on this side, and I'm not sure anyone kind of picked up on that.
cool. And then do you want to add into your where clause, you had suggested doing a comparison?
Yeah. So where that equals where I forgot what that's going to be in the
well, then you'll probably want to do an and. So if you do a space,
yeah, and
then you're going to do s dot status.
S dot status equals unsubscribe.
Or you could say is not. So I think it would be, I think it's exclamation point equals. Yep.
Is not unsubscribe, right?
Correct. And it's so important to know, and also good reason to see the data is the syntax, right? Because all subscribers has a very specific syntax. It could be unsubscribed, not. It's unsubscribed.
Yes, I always forget the D, and then I'm running it. I'm trying to figure out why, and it's like forgot the D. So I always try to copy paste from now on.
Yep. Perfect. Let's see if we get that. Is that sometimes you need a paren in the where clause, but I think we're good. It's just one.
So while we're waiting for this to do something, I have another question if I can. Oh, there it goes.
What's the question?
I didn't want to hold you up. You can go ahead.
Okay.
You sure?
Yeah, we only have till 9.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, so fantastic. This gives us, I think the most important start of the process, Robert, right? So this is identifies those records. It could also be records that are coming in via like an import from a data lake, depending on what your scenario is. But yeah, so I think our next step is we could start building out our automation, and we could build the query and the data extension, the first part of it. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So what do we want to do first?
Well, yeah, thank you for doing that. Do you want to copy that and drop that into a notepad? I always say when I'm using Query Studio, having people instruct is that it doesn't really save for just in case we don't want to lose that good work.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you had that problem. And then I think if we can use one of your tabs up above, we can go to Automation Studio and we can start building out our automation. We'll build the first query and the data extension. Awesome. And I think we have a automation folder for this group set up. There we go. So if you go under hands-on over there on the left.
Yeah.
And Boston Community Group. Perfect. All right, let's
So,
create a
great one.
new automation. You can name this whatever you'd like.
Subscribe.
We'll probably, yeah, it'll probably be a schedule. Fantastic. And then, yeah, let's bring over that query. Some people like building the query separately, you know, and then bring them in, but we'll just do it right from scratch here.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we're going to create that new query.
And subs.
Fantastic. And then I think before we go to the next stage, we need to go and create that data extension. So we might use in one of your other tabs. Yep.
Yeah.
And yep.
Where are we going to create it?
There should be, under hands-on, there should be a Boston community group. I'm hoping, I think there's one now. Yeah.
About this one here?
Yep.
Or is there underneath?
Top level's probably
top
fine.
level's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
And standard, I would imagine. What are we going to call
Correct.
this?
You can call it the same as your automation if you want.
As your automation? Okay. What would I call it? Unsubscribe from Salesforce. Okay.
Doesn't need to be sendable. Yeah. Okay, and then here's where we don't need all of the data that we had in that. I mean, typically when you're building your query, and probably do the same in Query Studio, you use the same fields that are in the select in your data extension. But you don't need all of those fields. Like for instance, you don't need the has opted out because of that's not necessary for your update for all subscribers.
Right.
It's essentially what you're doing. So the first thing you're going to need is that subscriber key. So if we go back to that query, just make sure we've got the right syntax.
So then we'll need to add subscriber key in the field, right?
Well, you've got the LID as the subscriber key. So maybe you want to just name that as
subscriber key.
Yeah. So it would work for contacts and, yeah, fantastic. So yeah, let's add subscriber key to your data extension. Fantastic. You could add email address. I think it's again, you're not going to be using it.
But just so identify that you've got the right one, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then you'll want to, depending on your, status, makes sense. And that status, depending on how you implement it, but for now, we could have that status just be a default value, which is unsubscribed, depending on how you want to implement it. But we're basically saying to all subscribers, we want it to take this status, which is unsubscribed. Yeah.
Unsubscribe.
Yeah. And then you could say, we could have another status field in here, which is depending on how you're doing logging. And that could be, you could have that be status, because I think that aligns with your query. The status field that you have up above, you could change that to all sub status. Yeah. And then the one below it could be, you might have to delete that. Field.
There we go.
There you go. Okay, fantastic. The subscriber key, probably, probably going to want to have that be a primary key for this use case, just to prevent dupes. Email is probably okay if that's nullable. Again, it's not critical. Well, it probably won't need to be nullable, but yeah, for our data set. All subscriber status is going to be default, but you can say that as nullable. And then status as nullable.
Make that as nullable?
Yeah, I mean, just again, when you're refining your final data set, you'll want to take a close look at these, but just to make the data simple. And then we can make nullable for status as well, just so there isn't any problems with running the automation. Okay. And then all those, so the email field, we're going to want to change that to email instead of text.
Right. I always forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the lengths look right. I don't think there's anything that we've seen. The subscriber key is 18 digits. We might want to change that subscriber key to 254 because they might be an email address. To your point.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You might have those where they are email addresses. Again, you're pulling in contacts and leads though. So
it would be, yeah, mine would be 18 digit. I usually just leave it as the default because it doesn't really matter at the point where I'm pulling it from, because I'm pulling it from Sales Cloud.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, again, this is all sort of looking forward a couple of steps in the automation where you're going to be instructing the import activity to say, okay, I want to update all subscribers. And I want you to tell me by the subscriber key. And I want to update that status for using that all sub status, right? You want to change it to unsubscribed. The status that you're getting from all subscribers is it's a good for logging standpoint. You could say, on this date, it went from active to unsubscribed for this subscriber. So sometimes it's helpful there. Again, as you're working this through, you might refine what fields you want to populate there. And then you could put a created date field, your last created date at the very bottom, create a new field. Yeah, just so it's timestamped.
Just a question. I'm assuming that once we populate this data table, we're going to use it to go to the unsubscribes, right? To make it unsubscribed.
Correct.
So I'm wondering shouldn't the status be unsubscribed, not this one? Because shouldn't this be like the previous status and this be the status that we want it to be?
Well, in this case, we're using the all sub status as the status that we want it to be. But you're exactly right. It just depends on how you want to name it, right? You have to tell all subscribers what you're changing it to. And for this example, these are going from active to unsubscribed. So this is a relatively straightforward implementation. If you have a query where you're changing it to it could be unsubscribed, it could be you could be deleting that. There could be a couple of different statuses. Then you wouldn't hard code it as unsubscribed. You would have it be, something you're changing it to. Could be active. Yeah. But just for this example, we know for this example we want it to go from an active status to an unsubscribed status.
Okay.
But you're exactly right. The status sort of captures the current. So we'll change that to date. And then we'll just use that plus sign just to the left of that. And that'll bring in that perfect. And then we can make that nullable just for the fun of it, just so we don't have any data problems. Perfect. Hit create. And I think we should be good there. Awesome. Now we can go back to your automation studio. And then we can, hopefully this hadn't timed out. And we can find that data extension. And you know what? Let's just go back one. Sorry.
It's okay, no problem.
So I think we want to change that LID to LID as subscriber key. So if you want to go back to your Query Studio query.
So we're going to be changing the LID.
So if you go, how in the Query Studio query we added we had the as subscriber key.
Oh,
if you go back to that. Yeah,
to hear.
because we want to make sure that matches the data.
Matches
extension.
it. Got it. Right.
Fantastic. Yeah. Right, so we've got subscriber key, we've got status, we've got email. Those are the three fields that we wanted to populate in the date extension. The all sub status field we are hard coding, and then the created date is, so that should align with that date extension. And thank you. So then we can go back to next. And then let's see if we can find that date extension. Sometimes it's finicky. Yay. And then we'll do the overwrite. Again, you might have different scenarios, but for this example, most likely it's an overwrite.
It's overwrite, yeah.
And then I'll hit finish. Awesome. Let's hit save in the right-hand corner. Okay, so I know we're at time, and we might continue this next week. Matt and I are partnering with these hands-on sessions, so it's totally up to Matt on what he wants to build. He can continue to build this out next week. That's his call, or he might go in a different direction. But yeah, our goal next time would be to build the data extract, the file transfer, the import activity, and then see this end to end. We'll be able to see this email, this subscriber move from active to unsubscribed.
Yeah,
Robert,
I think
if
it
you
is
wouldn't mind, if you
important
wanted-
to go from one to the next. I agree. If we tried to put this all in one, I think we'd all get confused, because I've been trying to follow along with some of the older ones, and I was lost in some parts. Right. So this is great, doing it one section at a time. Right.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic, wonderful. And from here on out, it's relatively straightforward as far as you just need to make sure you follow the steps for every step along the way. The real tricky part is what we did here, the query part. I mean, Matt, I don't know if you agree. Like there's documentation on each of these steps. For the most part, there's some stuff, some curveballs especially with the import activity there, but.
Yeah, I agree. I think from here on out, like you said, it's fairly standard activities, and it's really just moving data from one place to the next. The tough part is what we just did, which is figuring out, what do we actually want to do and how are we going to do it with the data we have.
Yeah. I think the key thing here as well is that the whole reason why we're doing this is there's no easy way to mass unsubscribe out of the all subscriber list, at least that I know of. So the only well, there's more than one way to do it, but the easiest, I think, is a SQL. There's a couple of coding ways of doing it that when I was Googling this, and I was like, yeah, I'm not stepping into that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Matt. I mean, it's my experience, this ETL, which we're going to be building, is sort of like best practice standard. You sort of see every day, 6:15 a.m., they're processing this and updating all subscribers on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Seems like, I don't know, Matt, is this something that you've seen as well and standard?
Yeah, I tend to work with smaller organizations, so I don't know that it's been standard in my experience, but it's certainly something that if I don't see it, it's one of the first things I try to set up for sure. I think having this in an automated fashion is great. Not that it's set it and forget it. You never want to forget about it per se, but having this stuff kind of running against your business rules and taking care of this for you is really helpful, and it's going to clean up 99% of your cases that you're going to run into. So definitely an important thing to have in your organization.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said set it and forget it. I think it's really important to put in your email for any errors. So if this fails, you get a notification. I honestly don't recommend putting it into the successful, because the successful, it just drives you crazy. Then you just got to delete every morning, right? But to put in the errors so you get notified is really, really important.
Absolutely, it's a great tip.
All right, awesome. And Michelle, I know you had a question earlier. Did it get answered when we were going through the query part?
No, I have more questions. Really, it's around the subscriber ID and how you actually know what person you have.
That's unsubscribed. So if we
The
go
leads
here,
I get, I know there's the opt-out and the lead, that I get, but my question is all these different campaigns you're running and somebody signs up, and how did you know to match them against a particular lead? In other words, that subscriber ID? I don't understand where that connection is being made to ensure that it's the same person.
okay, I kind of a couple of times what I'll have to do, let me just go back to let me open up a second tab and go back to the if we get someone that says, you know, hey, I want to unsubscribe, or I'm trying to check somebody who has unsubscribed. When I go to the all subscribe list and it's specific to the email, I'm going to use their email to look in the all subscriber list to kind of see what they're using. Where's leads? I'm going blind here. Sync.
Yeah, it would be based on email because that's what they're unsubscribing.
Yes, exactly. So on the unsubscriber list, I'm just going to grab someone's email so
Yeah,
it
so
makes
you have
sense.
that guy in there 3 times with different subscriber IDs.
Yeah. Go to all subscriber list. And in the all subscriber list, you can search by a couple of different varieties. Okay, why is it not doing it for me? There we go.
Sometimes it does that, yeah.
When I
There you
click
go.
on search, the default is email, and you can search by different things, right? But that email, I'm going to put that email in, and you'll see because he's in there multiple times, I bet she's got like different IDs showing when we pull this up.
Right.
And that's how you kind of, oh, yeah, lots of them. So
Ah.
that's how you kind of determine
Yeah,
what you're
sorry.
going to use.
But so every time that this T Zitter has gotten some campaign,
That's me.
they've subscribed to something.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. And then
And
that
you,
something is never tied together, though. It's got all these different subscriber keys, but now you're going back to the leads and you're trying to match from the lead to the subscriber key. I don't see how that connection can be made unless you're doing it by email.
uh, when we do the unsubscribe, we are going to use the lead, but I'm also going to run one for contacts in my business, case business anyways. I'm going to run one for leads and I'm going to run one for contacts, right? And so when I do that in this example, all the ones that are 003, those are contacts. So it's going to unsubscribe all of these 003s. All of the 00Qs, those are leads. So it's going to unsubscribe all of the leads. Now you're right. Now there's a whole bunch in there. And how do you control that? In my business case, what I would do is I tell the departments that I'm going to run a delete query. Because if this person does not have a lead ID or a contact ID, after 6 months, I'm sorry, they're gone. That's in our business anyways. Like everyone has to be able to manage it. But I need to make sure that I'm not going over my contact list. There's a max. I'm not sure if you know there's a max of how many contacts you have. And so you need to be able to control that. And this is not going to help you control it because there's so many. So I have to run a delete query and I make sure that anyone, if you're not a 003 or a 00Q, you're gone in 6 months.
Okay.
And so mine is cleared
Yeah.
up, but obviously it's not cleared up
Well,
here because this is a test environment.
yeah, right. But there's multiple subscriber IDs for this email. Now your premise is that you're going to go off the leads, you're trying to match to leads to see if you need to opt them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I just don't see what the benefit is of even caring what the subscriber key is at all, because you're only really interested that email needs to be opted out.
I think it's
And no
actually
matter where that email is.
so, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but what we care about is that subscriber key, that OOQ or 003 prefix Salesforce ID. That's going to be the record identifier within our Salesforce CRM, and it's also going to be our subscriber key in Marketing Cloud. So what the use case that we're trying to identify here is that someone in Salesforce CRM may have unsubscribed this subscriber. They went onto their record page and they said opt out of emails. And that didn't actually synchronize into Marketing Cloud. So when Marketing Cloud goes to send the email, it doesn't look back into Salesforce CRM. It's going to look at that all subscribers table, see that they are still opted in, and let that email go. So that because we're using that Salesforce ID as our subscriber key, that's going to be our identifier in both clouds. And this example that Robert's got up on the screen right now shows us that this person has opted out of email. True. That's their Salesforce CRM status, but their all subscriber status is active, which means we can send that email. So we've got a mismatch, and that's why we want to use that ID to clean it up. To your point, Michelle, there's absolutely an issue here, and I think the one with Tim's email address is pretty extreme, but it's absolutely out there, where we've got multiple subscriber IDs associated with the same email address. You can have multiple email addresses associated with a single subscriber. Like that's a one-to-many relationship in both directions. Maybe I use my .edu address for my university stuff, but when I want my cap and gown, I want to get that shipping notice to my personal email address because I know that my school one's going to be gone in 6 months. So there isn't really like an easy one-to-one way to look at. Not that I'm saying that you're suggesting that there is, but to your point, it can get really messy really fast, and a lot of times you need to take detective work to try to figure out who am I actually trying to prevent from getting these communications. Is it the email address, or is it the human at the other end of that address? And how do I make sure that that's aligned across both clouds? Sometimes that'll be your email address. Sometimes that'll be a subscriber ID, depending on what you've chosen to kind of architect your system with.
Okay, I see. So it just depends on how you've designed it.
Yeah, and then for our case, we're just simply trying to identify those who are in Sales Cloud, who have checked true that they want to unsubscribe, but in Marketing Cloud, as Matt said, their status still shows active instead of unsubscribe.
All right. Okay.
So we're trying to eliminate one of many different scenarios, as you said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Okay. So
This
it's a much
happens
more
all the time,
extensive
Tess.
activity to really clean it then.
I'm sorry, one more time.
It's a much more extensive activity than just this to really set that clean that has opted out of email is really true. To get that everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think this is something that I see a lot with contact centers. If that has opted out of email field, if that's exposed in Salesforce CRM and someone can call in and say, hey, I'm getting too many emails. Your people can adjust that, but it doesn't go back into Marketing Cloud unless you do it in a particular way. So definitely super common out there in the wild.
Yeah, I get those calls all the time. And actually now there are agents that will opt you out. So for example, they're going to sell you something and you interrupt the agent on the phone and you say, do not send me emails, opt me out. And they will say, I'm going to unsubscribe you or whatever their terminology is, but they'll do it for you. So that's happening now for real.
Love it. That'd be a great agent for us use case too. We should think about that. How do we get that to interact with this down the road?
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Okay, I gotta hop. A great session.
I've interacted with them.
Thank you, Michelle, for all your questions. Great job, Robert. We'll look to invite you back next week if
absolutely.
it makes sense to continue this on. And if Matt, if that works for you, and we'll just keep rolling.
That's great.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great week. Bye.